Good morning, friends. It is day 141 of Russia's invasion into Ukraine, and there's some great news that we get to share with you today because God is on the move. He is making a difference in the middle of war, and that's because of y'all. That's because of prayer. That is because of you all continue to stay on the wall. Please don't sell yourselves short. Prayer is making a difference. And again, the evidence of that is that the things that we're praying for very specifically are happening. And one of the things we prayed for throughout is bloodless resolution. And one of those is happening, as we've talked about over and over again, as the HIMARS, MLRS systems are been so effective in taking out ammunition depot after ammunition depot, bringing because without bullets they can't fire, they can't kill. Well, guess what? We are seeing very much statistical evidence of the massive decrease in the amount of shelling. Now, interestingly, Russians have been shelling out of more positions than almost ever before, but the amount of shelling has dropped drastically. Now, part of that, the results of it, Russians were using incendiary munitions with an attempt to do a couple things. One, burn the wheat harvest in the field and set fire to villages so it would have much more effect. Well, there have been rains, praise God. That's one way that is limiting the loss. But more than that, we have a lot of anecdotal information where what's happening is the Ukrainians are firing super effectively at Russian artillery positions, and there's no response. That's not normal. One is the Russians group all the artillery pieces together, so even when the Ukrainians effectively hit two or three pieces with, like, say, a M777, what they're finding is the Russians should be responding. Well, they're not. Why? They don't have bullets. They don't have ammunition. Praise God for that. Praise God. There is all quiet on the Eastern Front, not quite, but there is a high degree of there is a great degree of quiet. And another evidence of this is that in the last 72 hours, Russia has made no gains of any amount. There is one little tiny village down towards Avdiivka and Donetsk City where they made a little bit of dent this morning. That's it. In the last 72 hours, Russia's made no advances, and in fact, they have faced catastrophic losses. We continue to hear about the effect they had when they bombed, when the Ukrainians hit the Novokakhovka base there northeast of Kherson on Tuesday. We had understanding that there was the possibility that a high-ranking officers had been hit. Well, now it's come out that, in fact, another Russian general has been killed. But not just that. What we're getting is anecdotal evidence from Russian soldiers who are phoning, and their phone calls are being intercepted, that, in fact, the entire command structure of the Kherson Oblast was taken out. Wow. This is particularly catastrophic because in the Kherson Oblast, there are almost no collaborators. So literally, if Russia doesn't import the leadership, there is no leadership. And so this is greatly hampering the effectiveness of the Russian occupation of Kherson. We mentioned when they hit the Rosgvardia headquarters as well, that was such a massive thing because that's the occupation force, the SS, if you will, the guys who dominate and control, rape and pillage, and of the occupation population. And so, praise God, they're at a standstill. There are evidence of massive convoys being sent from Melitopol to Kherson because they have to replace what was taken. At the same time, the Ukrainians are pressing hard, and you can expect in the next 2 to 3, 4 days, depending on the amount of weapons they receive from the West, to see some movement towards Kherson. Pray for wisdom and coordination with the occupied peoples to be able to limit the Russians being able to use the urban areas of Kherson as a shield. But in fact, that they would be pushed rapidly out of Kherson and that that this would be the beginning of the end of Russian occupation in that part of the world. Um, Man, like I said, there's been no advance. One particular area they attempted to make an advance was towards Bakhmut in the area of Kadema and Vershina. Both places they were pushed out. All right. Well, another thing that we're seeing, and I mentioned this in part, but we're getting more and more detail, is when the Ukrainians hit Lugansk yesterday morning, what happened is it revealed, so Lugansk is the city of Lugansk is heavily protected by S-300, S-400, S-500, these what were considered some of the world's best anti-aircraft, anti-missile batteries. These things cost upwards sometimes of $300 or $400 million. These things are massive. They are powerful. And they've been touted to be able to protect, create like an Iron Dome, create a space that nothing can touch what it protects. And now they're being revealed as absolutely ineffective. Not only that, but the one thing that they did to add effectiveness by putting up basically an AWACS or a what's called an A-50, a radar platform plane up to help this system, still could not help them defend against the HIMARS because the HIMARS are coming in too fast. And in fact, the Russian military bloggers who are starting to call this out, and they are really ticked off. So we've got reports that the Russians are going to get several hundreds, if not thousands, of drones from Iran. What the military bloggers are saying, forget about that. We need to figure out how to protect our troops, how to protect, stop the HIMARS. They're like, this is ridiculous. One of the bloggers said this. He said, I've been under fire many times, but I was struck. He saw this. He actually saw the strike in Chernobyvka, in Kherson. I've been under fire many times, but I've been struck by the fact that the whole packet, 5 or 6 of these rockets, land practically on a penny. He added, usually MLRS lands in a wide area, and it's a maximum range. At a maximum range, it tends to scatter like a fan, and it makes an impression. He said that HIMARS makes an impression. I won't deny it. And another one of the things that we're seeing is today they've started hearings in the International Court on Russian war crimes. So what does Russia do to celebrate that? They attacked a peaceful city, Vinnytsia. They hit it right at the lunch hour in the downtown, and they hit they say it's what is it in English? The House of Officers. This is, there are no officers there. There are no military officers. It was built during the Soviet Union, and it's simply a theater hall. But it's almost a symbolic thing. They're like, you take our officers, we take your officers. There are no officers there. 90 people injured, 17 people at this point dead, one of them a child. Guys, this is, and Kuleba put it well. He said, as we begin to how does Russia respond to our attempts to call them to account for war crimes? They commit another war crime. This is, again, it's the image I get is of an enraged bull. It doesn't know what to do, and it just lashes out. This is what the Russians are doing. Another example is 9 missile strikes by S-300s were hit Mykolaiv. If you look at them, they show the minimal payload that these missiles have. They are using, remember I said the super expensive S-300, S-400, S-500 anti-missile aircraft missiles. These are incredibly expensive missiles, like $2 million a pop, and yet they're using them. They have a limited amount of payload. They're using them to hit civilian targets. These are hitting, guys, and they're hitting them, and it's to no end except loss of civilian life. They're there just simply for intimidation. In Vinnytsia, they hit the downtown with 3 missiles. These were Kalibra missiles. These were launched from the Black Sea, most likely from, there were 7 that were launched, 4 were intercepted, but the 3 that hit, they were obviously all aiming at the same target because they all hit the same target. Guys, this is not a mistake. This is not an accident. There was no military, targets in downtown Vinnytsia. This is simply outrage and frustration. So pray for the protection of the Ukrainian people, but continue to pray that the world would see the absolute, there's no point in attempting to negotiate with insanity. Another thing that's becoming very clear is the filtration camps. The world's largest security body, the OSCE, that's the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. It's like 53 countries. They've done a deep dive report on filtration camps. What's happened is, when the Russians occupy, then they filter everybody through the area. And what they do is they do a couple things. One is if they think you have any connection to any kind of opposition, any kind of Ukrainian military, anything, you disappear. If not, then they ship you to Russia. Why are they doing? One of the things is Russia's in the middle of a massive demographic crisis. With over 140 million people today, by 2050, they expect the population to shrink to 90 million. That is partially due to emigration. People don't want to live under oppression, but a lot of it has to do with dropping birth rates and short range of life. I think the average life expectancy for men right now is 55. So that part of, how does Putin deal with that? He steals children. In fact, there is a massive move within occupied territories to attempt to export children to Crimea. I don't want to go into all of the horrors of the filtration camps or what they're doing with children. You can read these at ariselife.org/Ukraine. But please pray that everything that Russia is doing, the Russian troops are doing, comes to light, and B, pray that it stops. Pray for unique, creative ways for the opposition, to those in the occupied territories, to be able to deal with these and address it, and pray for a quick resolution. In the middle of this, there's also one of the things that's happening is the pro-Russian military bloggers, Mila bloggers they're called, are actually, again, continually speaking out against the absolute breakdown in command structure. The Russian, first of all, the basic structure of the Russian military is faulty in that it's dominated, controlled down, that only the people at the top can make decisions. But on top of that, they've lost all their veteran decision makers. So many. We've had 12 generals killed so far. Many more than that have been sacked over and over again. It's just evident that people, so much of the artillery that's going on is not effective because they're simply trying to demonstrate they're doing something, but it's not to any end. And they're really calling this out. And one of the things they were saying is that the Ukrainians are the best artillery in the world and the Russians aren't. And so these are the military bloggers are calling this out. Another piece to pray about is the grain negotiations. Apparently, grain negotiations were somewhat effective yesterday between Russia, Ukraine, the UN, and Turkey in Istanbul yesterday. And now they're going back to their militaries to try to figure it out. Turkey is saying they're the ones who are going to be responsible for protecting the grain shipments, and then Russian and Ukrainians and UN will all inspect the grain to make sure it's sourced. Pray, because next week they're going to come back and either they're going to come up with the clear thing that whether or not they'll sign it. But again, 150 million people in the world are facing real famine if they can't get this breakthrough. So pray for that. Pray. One final piece is, and this goes to what I really feel like is the key prayer point, today, right now, this is July 14th. Tomorrow, July 15th, we are facing the Russian Duma is having a special session. Now, we already know one thing they're going to talk about is they're going to try to change Putin's title from president to ruler. But we've said this, he's a dictator. Let's not get it confused, and I love that they're bringing it to light. But here's the other thing is they're trying to figure out how to fight this war. And the only way they can do it is, so they're afraid of declaring war because and making it a mobilization and then mobilizing the population, doing mass conscription, the 200,000 to 300,000 people they need, because they're afraid of the populace, because the populace does not want this. So they keep calling it a special operation. At the same time, they need to get more people, because as I've said before, the Russian war machine runs on blood. And so what they're doing is, we may hear more, what we're praying is they do not declare war. That's what we're praying for. Second is we're praying they stay deluded, and three, that they quit. One of the things that is absolutely demoralizing the Russian army is the HIMARS. They're completely unprotected. So let them come up with some way that they act like they're protected, kind of like how they put remember how they made those little cages around the turrets of tanks as if that protected them from javelins. Let them do those kind of things. But do not let them declare war. Do not let them do mass mobilization. One of the things that it looks like they're going to do, we're praying this is the limited part, is that Putin has gone to every governor and said, you must mobilize a unit. You must mobilize a unit. Now, if every single one of them mobilized a unit of, say, 400, you would end up with 34,000 to 40,000 new troops. But the reality is they will not be trained. They will not be effectively trained. They will not be fit physically, and they will not be fit emotionally. Many of them, what you're going to see is they're going to be pulling them from prisons. They're going to be pulling them from psychiatric wards. They're going to be pulling them from the streets. They're going to pull them from the weak, from the poor, from villages. Pray that the Russian people see. Pray that they mess up while they're doing this, and it reveals to the Russian people exactly what's happening, and that the Russian people will cry out. As I mentioned yesterday, my wife Masha, she's saying she just saw this image of a sheet being pulled in two directions, so it ripped down the middle, as the peace party is like, get us our stuff back, as the war party's like, war at all cost, that it would just rip down the middle and reveal the truth, and that Daniel, those who would stand for righteousness, peace, and justice and truth would arise in the middle. Pray for that, pray for that, pray for that, because this war, I've said this before, this war will not end except on the Russian side. Yes, we need to see the Russian army defeated in the field, but at the same time, that's going to be a part of the piece, but the other piece is this has to be ended in Russia. So pray for that. Guys, and pray for the church. Guys, we're so grateful to you all for your faithful support of Vladimir and Lilia and what they're doing. They're breaking our hearts. They're taking in children who've been abandoned. They're dealing with, they're going to the hardest areas. They're dealing with people who are dealing with PTSD and massive amounts of trauma. They're dealing with people who've lost everything. They're giving them hope, but they're not just giving them hope. They're turning them around and making them powerful ministers of the gospel. They're taking people from being victims to be those who serve victims. They are bringing the kingdom of heaven to earth, and they're empowering so many other churches around them. Pray for now. This is the time. This is the time for the church to arise. This is the time for the church to reveal the glory of God. The light shines brightest in the darkness, and if it ain't dark there, it's dark nowhere. So pray, 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 pray. Pray for the churches in occupied territories to rise up. Let them not be cowed. Let them continue to rise up, and pray that Vladimir and Lydia and their team would be able to continue to minister and serve the occupied territories, even as they're ministering along the front lines and to the refugees. And pray for the refugees as they're trying to get out. Pray that they would make connections with churches, their families would be protected. And so again, as always, we're hoping to send over monies today. I'm waiting to hear from our bookkeeper. If you want to be a part of that, go to ariselife.org/help-Ukraine. Whatever we get today, this morning, we're going to try to get out this afternoon, and it will be there tomorrow. So pray. So if you would like to be a part of that, please consider going to ariselife.org/help-Ukraine and giving there. But look, guys, we love you all. We're so grateful. Every time you share this, every time you like it, every time you make your share public, it's making a difference. So please do that. And every time you're commenting on each other and praying for each other, that's huge as well. We love you all. Have an amazing day.